everyone, my name is Jess and welcome to my channel, Jess in Romancelandia, where I talk about happily ever afters and love stories and how they are one day going to topple the patriarchy. So at some point during the mess that has been 2020, I got a piece of news that made the year just a little bit better for me when it was revealed that Shonda Rhimes and her production company, Shondaland, are going to be bringing Julia Quinn's famous historical romance series, the Bridgerton series, to Netflix. The Duke and I, which is the first book in the series, was one of the first romance novels that I ever read. It was the first historical romance that I ever read, and for me, as it did for many people, it really triggered this love and fascination for the Regency romance and for that kind of world that is so familiar yet so distant and is the perfect place to get lost in when you're having a bad day or a bad week or a bad month. I've been wanting to film a reaction video to this since the news of the TV show came out, and then a few weeks ago when the trailer came out it just became like the top of my to-do list, but I was struggling for a really long time to find the software to be able to share the trailer whilst also sharing my reaction to it, because technology is not my forte, guys. I can talk about books and that is about as far as we go. But I finally think I found a solution, so I'm really excited to be able to react to the trailer for you guys today and then to do like a quick discussion of the series, of what I hope it brings to Julia Quinn's world, and just to gush a little bit about what for so many people is like one of the pinnacles of the historical romance genre. I have seen the trailer once before when it first came out because I couldn't resist hitting the play button when it came up in my recommendeds, but I have resisted watching it since then, so this is still going to be a fairly like fresh impressions video to it, so let's just get right in with the trailer. Oh, the colour scheme is already so good.
Has anyone else read what Lady Whistledown's written of late? Do not tell me that is yet another scandal. This one is different. This subject.
Eloise! Oh my gosh, the scenery.
My name is Lady Whistledown.
Yes, it is Julie Walters. Julie Walters, Julie
You do
Andrews.
not know me, and never
Simon!
shall. But be forewarned, dear reader, I certainly know you.
Oh my gosh.
The social season is upon us. We shall discover which young ladies might succeed at securing a match.
Oh, coordinated dance moves.
Let it be known, if there's a scandal, I shall uncover it and share every last detail.
Oh. Christmas Day! It's so soon. So soon. Okay, so first of all, Netflix knows how to make a trailer. Like, I was gripped. Like, entirely gripped for that minute and 40 seconds. I don't even think I said much other than like some explanations about character names that I recognised. But I'm so excited, guys. So excited. So the first thing that really stood out to me with that trailer was the design and the colours. So the Regency is this like massively vibrant era, and I think a lot of people kind of associate it with like, you know, black and white, turn of the century dreariness, but the Regent was a very flamboyant extra guy, and that was really reflected in like the dress and the parties and the lavishness of the time. So I'm really excited to see that Shondaland has really brought that to the TV show. The colours are gorgeous and really capture, I think, the flavour of the time period in a way that not many Regency romances do. A lot of them tend to go for those kind of muted colour palettes of like the Pride and Prejudice, Keira Knightley era. So I'm really excited to see her going for like a more kind of flamboyant, vibrant Regency vibe. I think that will make the show really unique and fun. Another thing that I noticed and absolutely love is the diversity in the cast, not only with our like main hero of Simon and of the new character that I believe is called Marina Thompson. I'll try and get a picture of her up here. but also just like when they were doing these big panning shots of society and of people reading Whistledown's papers, there were people of like different races, different ethnicities, and again, that's something that I think is so overlooked in period dramas. People that weren't white existed in the Regency. They existed in London, and it's so important that we see that. There's such a tendency to whitewash the British past, and especially these kind of eras, when that just wasn't the case. So I'm so excited that Shondaland has kind of taken its reputation for creating really, really diverse TV shows and extended that to this historical period drama. I think a lot of people wouldn't have done it, and I really respect it. I'm really excited for it. I think the cast is perfect. Simon's eyebrow game is so strong, which is exactly how I imagined it in the books, to be honest. I don't know why I had such like a vivid image of his smirky face, but the actor, who I think is called Renee something, pulls it off. Absolutely brilliant. I don't really have any strong impressions of this Daphne. We don't actually see her talk that much in the trailer. A lot of the speech comes from Lady Whistledown, who is portrayed by Julie Andrews, which I think again is a genius casting, like so good. They've just done such a wonderful job at casting this piece. I think every person who I have seen stills of and little clips from interviews of, or little like tidbits that they posted on their social media page, are clearly so right for their characters. I was really excited to see Penelope there, who's played by Nicola Coughlan. I love Nicola Coughlan. She's in one of my favourite TV shows, which is Derry Girls. So when I found out that she'd been cast as Penelope, I was so excited. I should say from here on out there are probably going to be some spoilers for the first 4 Bridgerton books, as I kind of discuss a little bit more what I'm hoping to see from these first few seasons of the TV show. So if you haven't read from The Duke and I through to Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, it might be a good idea to come back after you have read them, or to just power through and, you know, embrace the spoiler train. But now I've brought up Penelope, I think it's kind of inevitable to start talking about some of the things that come up in later books. So yes, Penelope and Colin's romance is for me something that I was really, really excited to see in this. I am a bit concerned because I kind of get the impression from the trailer and from the stills I've seen that Colin's initial love interest is one of the new characters, Marina Thompson, who we met earlier. And this kind of worries me. It worries me for a few reasons. First of all, because I know that they're not doing Kate and Anthony as a romance, because they haven't cast a Kate, and they seem to be introducing an opera singer as Anthony's love interest, according to news articles I've read online. And so if they kind of sacrifice Colin and Penelope's relationship as well, I would be so sad. And then I also think it's a risk because, like I said, Shondaland is really pushing the diversity in this series, which I think is wonderful, and I can't help but wonder what sort of message it would send out if Colin ends up choosing Penelope over this new character of a woman of colour. I think a lot of times in film, women of colour are kind of like pushed aside as love interests, and I don't want that to happen here because I love Colin and I love Penelope, but I really don't want that to be a narrative that they put across, so I'll be really interested to see how they handle that. Another thing that I swear I noticed in the trailer, and I'm so hyped for, is it looks like the actor that's playing Benedict is in like a sexual or romantic clasp with a man, which I think would be really cool. So obviously in the second or third book actually of the series we have Benedict's love story with Sophie, but I also don't believe that they've cast a Sophie for this project. And like I said, Shondaland as a studio is really, really dedicated to diversity of all kinds. So I think it would be really cool if rather than have our Sophie, we have Benedict perhaps end up with a man, or perhaps, you know, explore the possibilities of queer identities in the Regency. Again, I think that is something that was around in the Regency. I'm actually doing my dissertation on queer Regency romances, so I would love to see them embrace that through the character of Benedict. And I'm pretty sure that it was him in that embrace with a man in the trailer, so I will be so delighted if they go that route with it. The other thing that I really, really wanted to talk about in this little reaction slash hyping up of the series is how they are going to handle the end to the Daphne Simon story. So I don't really know how far they intend to go with this series. I'm guessing they're not going to try and cover all 8 Bridgerton books, just because they have cast quite young children in the roles of Francesca, Gregory and Hyacinth. So unless the series plans on lasting like 10-15 years, I can't imagine them having those three characters' love stories be at the centre of the series. So I do think it's probably going to focus, if not one series per Bridgerton, kind of like a mix of all the Bridgertons across a few series. But yeah, with Daphne and Simon's story, I really question how they are going to handle the breach of consent that happens at the end of the first book, at the end of The Duke and I. And this is something that me and a friend of mine have been talking about a lot since the announcement of The Duke and I was dropped. So as those of you who have read The Duke and I will know, there is a scene towards the end, or about 2/3 of the way through the book, where Daphne essentially forces herself on Simon. It's a very complex situation. So Daphne does not understand how babies are made for a long time, and Simon doesn't want a child, so he basically makes sure to always pull out of her when they are sexually active together, and eventually Daphne works out that sperm is how she's going to have a baby. So one time when they are having sex, she stays pushed down on him as he climaxes, so that she gets it in her and has a better chance of falling pregnant. However, this is done very explicitly against the consent of Simon, who I think is either drunk or partly unconscious at the time. And for me, when I was reading the book, I had no idea that the scene was coming up, but I remember reading that scene and saying out loud that this is rape, this counts as rape, this is presentation of rape in a modern historical romance book. And I do stand by that. There is a really interesting interpretation of it on the podcast Tea and Strumpets, which also does not excuse Daphne her actions, which are completely ethically wrong, but it does explore how Daphne, as a person who is so sheltered from sex, has not been taught lessons about consent and sex and biology that she perhaps needed to have been taught to engage in a fully adult sexual relationship. So there is definitely the idea that perhaps a lack of education is the real enemy there, but for me and for the people at this podcast, that does not override the fact that Daphne enormously breaches his trust and essentially enacts a sexual assault against her husband at the time. So I really don't see how they are going to do this in the TV show, because when The Duke and I came out, it was the early to mid 2000s, I think, and whilst of course rape was not permissible then by any standards, I think now in 2020, post Me Too, post all of these wonderful discussions about consent in Hollywood, it would be impossible to stage that scene as it is written in the books and not have people just stop watching the show or completely attack the show in fury because of it. So I really question how they are going to adapt that scene in a show, because consent is something that is so important in romance. It's something that Shonda Rhimes has explored in her other TV shows, so I can't imagine her depicting such a breach of it in this show, so I will be fascinated to see how they handle it. I question whether they're kind of right over the issue completely and it would just be both characters getting caught up in passion and him forgetting to pull out, so kind of completely overriding the issue of consent in the first place. But I will be really fascinated to see how they handle it, because I think it is possibly going to be the make or break aspect of the textual adaptation for the show. They're going to have to be really, really careful with negotiating it. They've got a huge responsibility to negotiate it carefully. So I will be very, very keen to see how that plays out. I haven't really got much else to say. I kind of want to let the show speak for itself when it comes out on Christmas Day in a few weeks. I will be filming a review of the first season once I've watched it in its entirety. I know that me and my friend are planning on doing like a virtual group watch of it on Boxing Day, so hopefully I will have a review up for that either late December or in the new year. But I am really, really excited that this show is coming to Netflix. There are so many romance novels and romance series out there that are just ripe for adaptation, and I think Bridgerton is an excellent one to start with because of its kind of place within the canon of romance. Everyone who reads romance knows Julia Quinn and knows the Bridgerton series, but I really do hope that the fact that they're adapting this series and taking it so seriously as a possibility for entertainment suggests that there might be more adaptations of romance novels in the future. Because I think that's a really great way to get people talking about the genre and engaging with the genre as a valid form of entertainment, and not something that's looked down on as, you know, overly sentimental and rubbish and for women, or anything like that. So I'm really hopeful for what this adaptation signals for the future of like television and adaptation. But yeah, I guess we will just have to wait until Christmas Day to see how they tackle it, and until then I'm going to be just rewatching that trailer obsessively and looking at all the stills and clips that come out. If you guys have any thoughts on the series or what you hope to see in it or hope not to see in it, please do let me know below. I would love to hear your thoughts on it. But until next time, thank you for watching and goodbye.